See, all that just throws them off their
Oh, I like you a lot already.
Hi
Hi,
there.
Claire.
Hi, Claire. How are you?
So how long have you been studying like common law?
All my life, kind of. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, my parents told me when I was 4 years old what was going to happen in the world. And it's everything that's been happening and is happening. And they told me I would have to make a decision because at some point in time, you had to make a choice and either take the mark or starve in a ditch, really, is the exact words they used.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And at 4 years old, I totally got it, totally understood, and made my decision. And then I found in my 40s I was having to really live that. And I, had gotten into some scrapes with local law enforcement overstepping their bounds. And when I began to stand up for my rights, they began to attack me. And I really didn't know law, and I wasn't aware of exactly how bad it had gotten. And so I, you know, hired attorneys the first couple times and stuff and started seeing they weren't really doing anything for me. And so then I started doing it, learning to do it myself, and just continued on from there because their harassment continued. And so I've had to continue to learn. And it's a shame that, I was already under attack when I started learning, which is why I want to do these classes so other people can learn, hopefully, before they get into a scrape.
Exactly.
But if not, I mean, if you are in a scrape, at least, you've got some people that can tell you where to look for what you need and kind of help you through it. So that's our purpose here, is just to point, show you where the law is, how to find it, things you can do, where it says it in the law, because a lot of people are told rumors. Oh, I know this is the law and I know that's the law, and you're like, okay, show me. Uh, 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 uh. So we
People don't understand, and that's what we've been taken away. We are a constitutional republic. We are not a democracy.
right.
And we go off of common law. And whenever it takes to the court, it's maritime law. The moment you hire a lawyer, you consider yourself an invalid, or you can't do it for yourself, essentially.
Right.
Yeah, it's learning how. And as a TI, I'm trying to figure out, is it in my best interest to become a common law citizen? Because, as you know, they make you dead through your straw man. So we're considered not even alive.
Right.
So it's that easier for them to target us and harass us. If we make ourselves livable again,
yes,
it make it harder for them.
it is. You're absolutely right. It is easier to target you when you do not have your status declared. Now, how you declare that or what you do, there's several different ways. Everybody has their different techniques and things, and I have mine too. But I mean, and I also believe it's not just one thing if you're a TI that's gonna stop it. Or if you're being what?
It's multi-layered, this targeting.
Yes.
Many agencies make money off of us. So.
Yes. So your solution is multifaceted too. So
my thing, and I've been very curious to know. So we have some lovely ladies that are figuring out exactly where the attacks are coming from the neighbors, from whatever. So send them a cease and desist. You are in my network. I charge $1 million every time you are in my network. And so then when you catch them again, you can take them straight to civil court. And that's whenever it becomes like ham. If we go after many gang stalkers, we start taking their homes away from them again, they're going to start screaming. So that's where I'm coming from, wanting to use common law to help the TIs, which I don't even know it yet. So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand it.
Well, and
Does that make sense at all to you?
yes, but part of our problem is that so much of society doesn't understand any law at all.
Yep.
Therefore, when you try to use the real law, it's completely foreign to them because they've been told the de facto lie law. Not LayLaw, the lie law. The law of lies. Yes.
Yes.
And the problem is that the courts, we don't really have any Article 3 courts. All of our courts have been subverted and taken over. And so it's very hard to get justice even if you know the law. But
well, you have to be a Freemason and know the law. That's the difference. But when you know the law and you're not a Freemason and you're teaching people, they don't like that. So,
Right, exactly. So what we have to do is we have to educate the whole broad public. They've all been terribly dumbed down and brainwashed, and they believe all these codes and rules and this and that is law. But most of the time, even looking in those, you're not liable. People think you are, but you're not. Like one of our past videos. What?
Sorry. I say it's a policy, not a law. Oh, sorry to interrupt you, but
I couldn't.
When you were commenting about what like the police do, and they got, they have all these policies. They're not laws.
Yes.
They're just little rules.
Right.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're exactly right. That's exactly right. But even when you look in their code, for example, I said I'm in Texas, and one of our past videos we showed you in the Texas Transportation Code, where it talks about driver's license, insurance, and registration, which is the first three things an officer says when he walks up to your car, right? Driver's license, registration, and insurance. Well, I showed in the Texas Transportation Code where it says you're not required to have any of those, except for insurance after an accident. You do have to provide proof of financial responsibility to the investigator that's investigating the accident. And if you refuse to do so, they can take you in front of the magistrate as soon as practicable, and then the magistrate performs an investigation to determine if you are likely to be determined to be liable for the damages. And if the magistrate decides and rules that it is probable that you could be liable for the damages, then he will rule that you have to prove financial responsibility. But see, that's what the Texas Transportation Code itself says. But is that what the cop says? Is that what the news says? Is that what everybody says? No. Even the judge, they say, no, you got to show proof of insurance when the cop stops you and asks you, well, that's not what the law says. Same with driver's licenses. I mean, we even have Texas Supreme Court rulings and Court of Criminal Appeals rulings in Texas that say there is no such thing as a driver's license known to Texas law. So it's things like this people don't know because probably every state has the same stuff. And if not, don't worry, because we got all that same stuff in SCOTUS rulings. That's the Supreme Court of the United States. So it doesn't even matter if we don't have some in your state, because we've got SCOTUS rulings which cover the nation. So we're good. And SCOTUS agrees with what I've just told you in rulings. So this is what people have to learn, is that you have been snowed. And you don't know what the law is. You think you do. You think you have to pay property taxes. You think you have to pay sales tax. You think you have to, stop at stop signs and go the speed limit and have a driver's license and yada, yada, yada. But, look at my videos and you'll see I don't have any of that stuff. I got a passport. They stopped me for running a stop sign right in front of them. And no tags, no insurance. Well, I don't show them any insurance. I've got a surety bond, but I didn't show it to them. And it wouldn't be in the computer unless they manually entered it. So without tags, inspection, driver's license, anything, and having ran a stoplight, I drove away without signing a ticket. So if more people knew the law, they could do the same thing. Now, I'm not advocating go around and run stop signs, okay? And what I did was not unsafe in the condition that it was in. We were in a very wide, open intersection with good, excellent visibility, and the guy across from me, as I was pulling to the stop sign, the guy across from me proceeded straight through the intersection, which just gave me the perfect opportunity to, instead of wasting gas and holding traffic up, to go ahead and hit it and run through the stop sign while there was somebody already in the intersection going straight. Just holds traffic up less. And so I'm not saying people should go around running stop signs and being unsafe. I'm just saying we are not lawfully bound to all of their BS and their codes and their stuff. Even when you look in their code, most of the time you're not bound. You just think you are, but you haven't carefully read the code, or you don't understand what the words in the code mean.
Well, what they do is they manipulate you into a contract. That's why they are adamantly say, do you understand? That's
right.
why you never understand what a damn police officer says. You don't understand a damn thing, because the moment you stand under them, that says, I stand under you.
Right.
So that's what you say to them. Do you understand me?
Yes. Exactly.
I'm not in a contract with you.
Exactly.
It's all about language and lingo. And you're not a driver, you're a traveler. And that, it's so hard even when you're in the midst of it all to try and remember those things. That's why I want to understand it better.
You know what? I didn't even have to go into any of that. When you do an affidavit of life and declare that you're not dead, that goes out to all of law enforcement and the courts and the major corporations. And they all get put on alert that you're not dead or lost at sea, that you're a live person. And that should put you in a hands-off status from the de facto government. It doesn't always, because, the IQ of the average cop's pretty low. So it doesn't always stop it as it should, but a lot of times it does. And the other thing is, I don't worry about like that kind of language and stuff at the stop. I do a different tactic, and that is to first assume control of the situation instead of letting the cop do that. They are very used to walking up and assuming control of the scene. So when they walk up and you assume control, it knocks them off their feet. They can't really, they're shocked by it, taken aback, and they can't, they can't even really think with it at first. Like, are you seriously yelling this at me? but it's what I'm yelling at them that makes the difference. And you'll see in my videos, I've got a pattern that I use. And the first thing is I ask the cop why he has what the emergency is. I say, what's your emergency? He's like, oh, I pulled you over for speeding or for running a stop sign. That's not an emergency. What's your emergency that you've turned on your overhead emergency lights? Is my car on fire or something? What are you doing? Well, I told you, ma'am, I was pulling you over because you were speeding. That is not an emergency. So, you have your emergency overhead lights on when there's no emergency. And now you're creating a traffic hazard by stopping me here in the middle of the road? What's your probable cause? See, all that just throws them off their shit. They're like,
who? I like you a lot already.
Who the hell is this talking this smack to me with this attitude? And, and then they'll try to get back on track and say, well, I need your license, registration, and insurance. And I just go, no, I don't think so. I need a probable cause. What the hell are we doing here? Ma'am, I told you. Well, then you better call a supervisor real quick. You've got options here. You can let me go. You can call a supervisor, but I ain't going for this bullshit today. So a lot of times they're already radioing in, get me some backup. I need a supervisor. Or in the last one, he told me he was a supervisor. And I said, well, we better go to the magistrate because you're getting in a lot of trouble right now. And you can always demand to be taken to the magistrate. You don't have to sign a ticket. It depends on where you live. I live in a kind of a rural country, we're on the edge of the city moving into the sticks. And they don't have a magistrate just sitting there all day waiting. It's not a big city. So when I say take me to the magistrate, they don't want to do that because they can't do that without holding me for some time. And they know they better not do that. So I don't sign the ticket and they have to let me go. Then I don't show up to court. And then they try their hokey stuff of sending you letters and coming to your door and sticking a summons on it and calling you and saying you have court and all this. And I just go, no, I don't. No, don't think so. I didn't sign any contract. He had the option to take me to the magistrate. He chose not to. That's dead issue. And if they keep it up, then I'm going to file cease and desist on them. And then something all of you need to know, if you don't already, is that you can actually call for backup. Did you know that? Did you know? Okay, let me tell you how the people get some backup. Because if the cops can call for backup and escalate the shit, then so can we, right? So we can ramp up our protective devices by informing others in the area and getting them to come out and assist us against this aggression. So the way you do that is you go, do you all know who Ammon Bundy is?
No.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the Bundy Ranch Standoff?
Yes.
Has anybody not heard of it?
Yeah, I don't think I have.
Okay. So in Nevada, there was a standoff with ranchers and the BLM, which is the Bureau of Land Management. The Bureau of Land Management had been usurping power that did not belong to them for a long time. And these ranchers that have been grazing that land for 80 years were being forced into contracts that they never signed, never had a party to, and their rights to the land of the people was being usurped by the BLM. And the BLM was saying, You got to pay us more and more and more and more until, these ranchers have $1 million in fees to graze their cattle on land that should be free. So the Bundys stood up against this aggression. The BLM had already put out many ranchers out of business with this crap. And the Bundys stood up, and there was a standoff, and the people of America came and they stood, and the BLM backed down. And then they went after another family in Oregon, and the same thing happened. People were assembling there to assist, and the FBI shot and killed a fine patriot named Lavoy Finicum. It was an out and out murder, straight up murder. And so after all this happened, some changes started happening. It hasn't been on the mainstream media news, but the FBI has been trying desperately to settle with the family, and the family's like, yeah, no, we're not settling. You're in a lot more trouble. And so the son of Cliven Bundy, who led the standoff, he was a 70-some-odd-year-old rancher who led this standoff, very brave patriot. His son is Ammon, and Ammon during the standoff was tased, bitten by a dog, pretty much called everything but a good Christian man. And he has now started an organization called peoplesrights.org. You can go join peoplesrights.org, and when you join, it will tell you how many people you have in your area, and it will give you the actual names of your area assistants and your state assistants. And should you have trouble, it is the goal of People's Rights to make it to where when anybody has trouble, they can call out and have people there within 10 minutes. And these are your neighbors. And this is what we want, small neighborhood groups where you get to know each other, you begin to trust each other and to work with each other, and you back each other up when somebody is being transgressed on and trespassed. We stand with them. So I urge everyone to go join peoplesrights.org. That way, should you come under threat of violence from the government in a face-to-face type situation, at least you've got some people you can call. And if you join and you get to know the other people in your area, then you can network with them and build strong communities that support each other. Sound good?
Yes.
Okay.
Are the Bundys now targeted?
Somewhat, but it's
They have been.
yeah, it's much harder for them to do it because of the publicity, but yes, they are still trying their stuff. They're criminals. They're never gonna stop. I mean, look at how many cop shows you see, and the guy's he's surrounded by 60 cop cars, and he still wants to try and fight, and they cuff him and he still wants to fight, and they try to put him in the car and he still wants to fight, and they take him to the jail and he still wants to fight, and they try to put him in the cell and he still wants to fight. It's like, dude, you didn't realize back on the highway when you were surrounded by 30 cop cars that it was over? The government's like that. They don't realize when it's over. So they just keep on and keep on. But when you start shutting them down in different areas, it gets much harder for them to do anything effective. So, yes, they try, but they're not being real effective. So, any more questions? Okay. If nobody has any more questions, I was going to go over complaints tonight because what we're seeing, and let me see if I can do a screen share here. I wanted to show you first a little bit about why I want to share this complaint process. Here we have a couple news stories that talk about what's been going on with the DOJ lately. And what gets this done is number of complaints. When they get enough complaints into an area, they do go ahead and investigate. So I wanted to just show y'all a couple things that are really recent because, I mean, look at this. The FBI raided Detroit City Hall, and I'm going to go ahead and mute the video, but play it. They raided Detroit City Hall and went to members' homes and raided them in a corruption probe. So that's really cool to see that happening. We all know our cities are corrupt, and our councilmen are corrupt, and our judges are corrupt, and everything else. So just to show y'all that this is actually going down. This is a mainstream news media story, you know? So that's mainstream media telling you there. And then we have this one.
I'm joined here.
And this one is also August of this year. And they're investigating the city of Phoenix and the Phoenix Police Department. So that's encouraging. So we got Detroit, we got Phoenix, and then they started investigating Louisville, apparently after the death of Breonna Taylor. And then not only were they investigating the Louisville police, but hold on and check this one out. They started investigating also, what is it, the Metro government and Louisville Metro. So now what started out as an investigation into the police department, now they're investigating the police department, the Metro department, and the Louisville Jefferson County government. So that escalated pretty quickly. So that's nice to see. So this is why I want to encourage everybody to file complaints, because we do right now have a responsive DOJ that is looking into city corruption, FBI corruption, police corruption, all of it. So I'm encouraging everybody file complaints. Now, let's look at what kind of complaints we can file. Okay, we're on the DOJ website. It's justice.gov, and they have a place where you can see about filing a complaint. It gives you the addresses, the phone numbers. You can call and talk to them. You can file online. You can get the forms and print them and mail them. You can call them and ask them to mail you forms, and they'll do that. I mean, there's just all kinds of things that the DOJ will do for you. And then you can file civil rights complaints, and you can file... Now, states also and divisions have their different forms as well. This one, if you look right up here, it tells you it's in Washington, D.C. at 950 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest. So this one is going to Washington, D.C. main office, and it's a complaint form. And it's, this is one of the longer ones I've seen. It's got like 20 questions, but some of them you don't have to answer like if you don't have an attorney or if it's not involving employment. So they have lengthened the form to be about 20 questions, but they're all pretty simple and straightforward. And it just comes right off their website. You can print it, fill it out, mail it in. They also have click-through forms online where you can go and just click through and answer the questions, and it files it automatically with them. So you have lots of different options about how you file and lots of different places you can file. Like I said, this one is going to go to Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. However, this one is from the Southern District of Texas. Now, I had not found this form before, but it's very, very similar to one that I found for Washington State. And this little thing, it's like 2 pages. It's like, I think, 8 questions. So easy. It says, like, who's the person filing the complaint? Who are you filing it against? They want name, address, city, zip, and phone, and email on all of those. And then right here, you just have these little click boxes. They have these little click boxes where you can check what's the nature of your civil rights violation. Is it disability rights or access? Is it educational opportunities, employment discrimination, military veteran status discrimination, housing, voting, religious, abortion clinics, immigration, credit and lending, other? I mean, it's got everything there. So you just check the box or check other, and then it says, okay, tell us what happened and tell us how it happened and when it happened. Are you represented by an attorney? Have you filed a lawsuit? Have you filed a complaint with any other federal or state government agency about this? If so, what agency? And then you sign and date. That's it. I mean, people could be filling out complaints to the DOJ in like 5 minutes flat. I carry not this Texas one because I hadn't found it before. I had the one from Washington State, and I just whited out where it said Washington State, and I put the address for Washington, D.C., and I carry copies of those around in my purse. Like, you violate my rights, I'm whipping out my form and asking your name. So, I encourage everybody to file complaints anytime anybody violates your rights. Now, I did tell you there's other kinds of complaints, right? So check this out. Look, this is also something you can file with the DOJ and the FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission. So some of the places that you file with the DOJ, some of the forms will actually say on it, we're going to notify other law enforcement agencies, and we're going to send a copy of this to the Federal Trade Commission. Now, why would they say that? Why are we now talking about the Federal Trade Commission? Anybody know? Claire, you probably know. She's got us muted. She might have stepped away. The reason that the Federal Trade Commission matters is because, like she was saying, everything is commerce. They have you under commerce instead of common law. So under commerce, the Federal Trade Commission would be involved. Now, if you've corrected your status and you've told the government that, hey, I'm not dead or lost at sea, I'm a live living person, don't mess with me, then they notify all of law enforcement and the courts. And if they mess with you after that, you can just send your paperwork to the Federal Trade Commission and they get on them. Now, the problem for them is if they get too many complaints that go to the Federal Trade Commission, they can have whatever licenses or charters or anything like that pulled for violations. So they don't want to do that. So aside from like civil rights complaints, you can also file a consumer complaint. And here's a little form I found at AG Portal, which is, AG stands for Attorney General. And so in this AG Portal, they have this form. And now all of these forms, even though most of them come from the Attorney General or the DOJ, I was able to find them with a simple Google search. So you can find this stuff really easy just by going to Google and typing this stuff in, and you can pull up all kinds of forms. Now, you might not find the ones that I find, because some of the government websites make it rather difficult. And like I told you, I just now found that one for Texas, and I've been looking at these forms for years. Been looking up this, and today, preparing for this meeting, is the first time I've ever seen the one for Texas. But the DOJ and government websites are often changing all the time too. So maybe there wasn't one on Texas until now. So they do change. If you find a form you like, print it out and keep extra copies because it may disappear or change. When I'm dealing with forms, I don't really like change. So when I find forms I like, I print them out, I keep copies. I never use my last copy. I save it to make more copies and yada yada, right? So that's what you can do here. But here, again, this one's not civil rights like the ones we just looked at. This one is for consumer complaints. So, like if a business or steals your money or cheats you, I was just on the phone with AT&T today because the salesman came by. He told me my bill would be $50. I would get a free phone and roadside assistance. Not any of that was true. So and how many of you have had companies do that? We've all seen them do that over and over. So this is a good form to file when a company, a business does something like that shysty to you. You could also use this one to file if they do some kind of mask stuff or something like that. So again, state of Washington form, man. State of Washington has really good. I always like the state of Washington's forms. Somebody over there at the AG's office is really good with making their forms. I really like them. But the thing is, you can modify any of these forms. It says on the website, you don't have to use our form. You can just write on a letter. You can do whatever. You can make your own form. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I modify the form. It just depends on what I'm doing. But what I wanted to show you guys and make sure that you're aware of is that, like, you can get the forms and where to get the forms, and that they're so easy to fill out. For those of you who do have video right now, you can see this is it. This is the whole form, 2 pages. That's it. It's just a couple questions, sign and date. What's your name? Who did it? What'd they do? What's the amount in dispute? What happened, sign and date. That's it. This is really easy to do. We really don't have any excuse not to do this stuff. And considering that it's the weight of the paper that makes a difference. In other words, the more people that file, the more apt it is to be investigated. So if we all know a certain company is doing us a certain way, we don't have to just sit and take it anymore. We can spend 5 minutes, fill out a complaint. We can urge our friends and neighbors and family members to do the same, and we can bring these guys to account. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Anybody have any questions? Complaints?
No complaints. I just need to know what all I have to do to file an affidavit of life.
Everybody has their different ways of doing it. The basis of it is that you are letting the government know that you're alive and not dead at sea, and you're sending them a cease and desist. That's the basic of it. And now everybody's means for doing that and how they do it is different. I think my way is the best way because it's seemed to be effective for the most part, but it requires that you demonstrate your life by giving a thumbprint in blood. So you have to get a lancet and do your thumb, but you're sending out copies of this to lots of different places. So you end up doing quite a few bloody thumbprints. And then you put a piece of tape over that, and you have your witnesses do their signatures, and they don't have to do blood, they just have to do red ink, and then put tape over all those thumbprints, and you make sure they're placed correctly, and you send off your paperwork, and that's it. But that's just how I do it. Different people have different ways of doing it. Any other questions?
Where do I get this? What paperwork? Where do I get it? Where do I send it? Affidavit of life.
When I get the LayLaw website up, it'll be on there. So I'm sorry I don't have any better answer this moment. You're just going to have to wait until the website goes up. And then all of that will be on it. Anybody else?
Is there different type of statuses, meaning you hear sovereign citizen, common law citizen? Is that why people do it differently? And how can you find out the differences to see what works best for you?
That's a very good question. It does make a difference. First off, anybody who really understands freedom would not call themselves a sovereign citizen. That is made up by controlled opposition, and it's used to make us look like idiots. But you're either a sovereign or a citizen. A citizen means a subject. You can't be a sovereign subject. You're either a subject or you're a sovereign. You understand? So that term is an oxymoron. There is no sovereign citizen. So people who use that term don't know what they're talking about. You know that much straight off the gate. Status does matter. A lot of people believe, and I kind of also believe that state national is probably the best status for a sovereign to have, because when you start dealing with the U.S. de facto government, you start getting into citizenship, and citizenship strips you. Like I said, you're either a sovereign or a citizen. You can't be both. You can be a civilian. You can be a sovereign civilian. You can be a sovereign state national. You can be a sovereign Texian. Notice I didn't say Texan, which is what most Texans say. But if you are in the Republic of Texas, you're a Texian. So I have not done my passport in the style of a state national. I did my passport as a citizen. However, I then declared that I was alive and not dead or lost at sea, and that, I think, changed the status of my passport, even though I filed for the passport as a U.S. citizen. I don't think my passport is recognized as that. I think it's recognized as a state national. As a state national, you're not part of that whole U.S. citizen slave stuff. You're a civilian state national of whatever state you want to live in or claim nationality to. Was that all the statuses you asked me about? Was sovereign citizen and state national?
Yeah, that was helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was helpful.
Um,
One last thing. That's the same as like a natural man or a natural woman, right? Same thing.
a state
Gentlemen,
national.
Okay. Yeah, that will be for another time. Okay.
Yeah, a state national is a living, breathing man or woman, because they're state national. The way you do that is with your passport, how you fill out your passport papers, and you're going to not claim U.S. citizenship. And you'll write in there where you were born, like I was born in Austin, Texas. So you still put that. Now, if you go to the post office and you're trying to get a USPS employee to help you, and you want to get your passport at the post office, a lot of them may not be fully up on what's going on. And when you say, oh, I was born in Kansas City, Missouri, they're going to say, well, then you're a U.S. citizen. And you're going to say, no, I'm not. And they're going to say, but are your parents U.S. citizens? And you're going to say, no. And they're going to say, where were they born? And you're going to say, well, my dad was born in Oklahoma and my mom was born in Kansas. And they're going to say, and you were born in Kansas. You're a U.S. citizen. And you're going to say, no, I'm not. And you might have to fight them. So it might be better and easier to just order your passport from home. That's what I did when I got mine. I just got the forms, I filled them out, and I mailed them off to the government with everything they wanted. They wrote me back and said, we want something else. I think they wanted to know something about my baptism, like it's any of their... But they do ask those questions on a passport, like about baptism and all kind of stuff. So,
of course it does, because it's all Christian law, and yes, of course.
Yeah. So I answered their questions and they went ahead and gave me my passport. So if I was going to do state national, if I was going to re-up my passport and change on the passport, which, like I said, I don't think I have to because of my affidavit of life. If I have to do that, I think that I'm going to do it the same I did last time. Just fill out the form and send it in. I'm not going to go to the post office and argue with them, because they're going to try to tell me, your mom and dad were born in the States, you were born in the States, you're a U.S. citizen, and you're going to be like, no. So,
yeah, they don't get it. They don't
yeah.
get it.
And some of them might, I don't know, but I just, it upsets me so bad when government employees are that ignorant that I get too upset. I don't like to deal with the frustration, so I do as much as I can by mail. But yeah, it definitely makes a difference if you claim you're a citizen or not. You do not want to be a U.S. or even a state citizen. You want to be a state national or a civilian. or just a living woman. You could say I'm a woman or I'm a man. So, yeah, that does make a difference. Anybody else? Any other questions about complaints or sovereignty or anything? Okay, cool. If nobody has anything else, you all know now you can Google to get forms and find all kinds of complaint forms. I urge you to complain on everything. Carry forms with you in your purse or in your car and fill them out often because it does make a difference. Okay? All right. I think everybody's muted out on me. So, if nobody has anything, I'm going to go ahead and end off for this week. We do this same meeting every week, Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. Central. And we invite you all to come and learn, ask questions. Very soon we will have our website up and we'll have all the forms on there for you. And then you'll be able to also speak with other counselors that you can go into specifics if you have cases yourself that you need help with. We're going to have some counselors that can work on with you one-on-one on your specific case. As we build up viewership on these Zoom meetings, if we can get up to a decent number, I have lots of really cool stuff that I will give away on these meetings. But I need the viewership to be up. We need 50, 60 people in here, and I'll start giving away things like cameras, body cams, drones, books.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I think we lost sound.